Hello everybody, Psych 380, and we are on week 7. All right, hope you guys are doing okay. Let's take a look and see how everyone is doing. All right, so for the most part, most of you are doing great. If you are looking at your grade book, which is what I'm doing now, make sure you focus on the total points, all right? And if you have been keeping up with your assignments and all that, you should be hitting pretty close to 700. Okay, you should be. Many of you are in the 600s right now. Okay, so if your total point is in the 600s, awesome. Okay, if you are in the 500s, okay, you're a little bit behind on a couple of things. Okay, which as long as you catch up on those, you should be fine. All right. If you're in the 400s, you're behind on a few more things. All right, but still, you should be on track to finish. I'm just trying to see if you are in the 400s. What are you missing? If you're on the 400s. You're probably missing some homework assignments. You're probably missing some points on participation, all right, which are easily made up. Okay, let's see if you see what you're missing here. Okay, so yeah, probably some homework, okay, and maybe you have not taken your midterm exam yet, all right, so that will put you a little bit behind, and probably project 1 and project 2 maybe, okay, so some of these kind of, as we call them, big ticket items. All right, if you haven't turned them in yet, okay, that will put you behind. All right, but they are easily made up. Okay, so I'm pretty much going through this every single week. Okay, but if you're watching this and you want to know how we can make up some points, okay, you can make them up pretty quickly. All right, so here are the things to check. Number 1, participation. Okay, these are 20 points every week that you should get. If you didn't get 20 out of 20 on participation, okay, just make up the posts. All right, go back to that week. All right, make sure that you have 6 posts. Okay, if you, how do you know? All right, the posts are roughly 3.5 points each. All right, so if you see 7 out of 20, okay, that means you only did 2 posts, you're missing 4. All right, if you see 13 out of 20, okay, you probably miss 2 posts. Okay, so make up the 2 posts. Okay, if you get 10 out of 20, you're missing 3 posts. Okay, so just go make up the posts. Okay, when I see the post from previous week, I'll give you the points back. It's that simple. All right, and if you're not sure what you can write about, well, check out my midweek follow-up. I always give you something to write about. Okay, that shouldn't be too difficult. All right. Next, homework. If you haven't submitted your homework, okay, on some of these weeks, okay, remember that you can get half of your homework scores by doing the mastery training. All right? Really, I mean, if you haven't submitted, homework 4, okay, or homework 3, all right, you can get 30 out of 60 just by doing the mastery training for those 2 chapters for that week. All right, so it doesn't have to be 0. Okay, you can get half of the homework scores by doing the mastery training. Okay, so there are some easy points you can earn. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a low score or 0. Okay, do half of it. All right. What else are you missing? Project 1, Project 2. Okay, so Project 1, if you haven't turned it in yet, all right, just go do it. Okay, it is not a difficult assignment. Okay, Project 1 is not a difficult assignment. Project 2 is not a difficult assignment. Yes, you have to do some work to get it done, but generally, if anyone who turned them in, if you turn in Project 2, okay, you usually get 50 out of 50. I don't give partials. All right, you turn it in, you get your 50 points. All right, Project 1, all right, even if you don't follow my instructions, you should get 60 out of 75 pretty easily. Okay, and if you read my instructions, you can get 75 out of 75. These are not tough assignments. Okay, I mean, Project 1, mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation, frequency table, histogram. Okay, these are things that some of us had it in high school. All right, so they're not super difficult things to do. Okay, so if you haven't done it, please do it. Now, if you did it and you didn't get full credit, guess what? You can fix it. You can submit a correction. Okay, read my grading comments. You can fix the parts that I took off points on and submit it and get points back. All right, so these are all points that are in front of you that you can get back. All right, so don't give up. Don't give up on the points. Okay, if you're missing, 20 points on Project 1, which I'm looking at it right now. Some people miss 20 points. All right, go fix it. Simple as that. Okay, they are still available. Okay, Project 2, if you haven't done it, please do it. Okay, unless there's a reason for me to not give you 50 out of 50, pretty much everyone gets 50 out of 50 if you just turn it in. All right, so if you can just make up these items that I pointed out just now, you should be able to make up a big chunk of the points that you're behind on. All right, the midterm exam, if you haven't taken it, take it. All right, people who take it usually get a decent number of points, usually get a decent grade. I don't, the low score that I see on midterm is 50, it's still over 50 points. Okay, and guess what? On the midterm exam, okay, if you read my announcement post, you should see that you can actually submit a correction, okay, to get the points back, for any points that you got deducted, okay, points you miss, you can submit a correction to get the points back on your midterm. Okay, so plenty of opportunity to earn back points. Either you haven't submitted, either you haven't earned them yet, or points that you missed, okay, you can get them back. Okay, So it's all there for you to get back. All right. Now we are on week 7, so time is kind of running short. All right, but guess what? You have until April 12th to get to earn a point. Okay, so week 7, you know, we're on week 7 right now. There's week 8, okay, and then we get one more week. Okay, so you still have 2.5 weeks to earn all the points you can earn before I turn the grades in. Okay, there's still time. All right, but you need to get moving. All right, because I want everyone to get the best grade possible. I want everyone to get the point. All right, if you're missing some of these assignments, okay, you need to get going. Okay, because time's running short. All right, and I want to get you guys all moving on. I don't want anyone to not pass. All right, but if you don't have enough points, you know, there's nothing I can do. Okay, so please, I mean, I'm as anxious as some of you to pass this class. All right, I'm looking at some low point totals. All right, and I wish you can get a move on them because I want you guys to pass. All right, so just do the best you can. Okay, some of these items are not hard to make up. They are not. Okay, I'm looking at someone with really low point total, and I'm looking at a lot of items that you can quickly fix. Seriously, mastery training. Okay, I've seen people do 10 chapters of it in a day. You can. Okay, and there's nothing to stop you from doing that. All right, project 1, project 2, you can knock those out in a day. Okay, that's 125 points. All right, serious points that are still up for grabs. Okay, I'm like, come on, what are you waiting for? These are not difficult points. These are easy points. All right, the truly difficult points I understand. Okay, part of your homework problem sets, I get it. All right, project 3, I understand. That's also a tough assignment. Well, relatively tough. Okay, but participation, mastery training, project 1, project 2, just do those. I mean, those are not hard to do. All right, I mean, I can see some of you, you know, getting your discussion points every week. Okay, good. Okay, but there's still a lot of easy stuff that you can earn. Okay, don't leave them. Don't leave them. All right. All right. So please, I mean, I'm laying all the easy points open for you to grab. All right, it's a video game, as I said before. Okay, the objective of this class is to earn as many points as you can before the time runs out. Okay, so 2.5 weeks, grab all the easy points. Please, they're there waiting for you to grab. Okay, don't leave them out. You leave them out, and when the time is up, I look at all the points that you have not claimed and you didn't pass. It's hard for me to feel bad because it's like, I have all these easy points for you to earn. Why are you not getting them? All right, I can't make it easier for you. You just have to claim them. Okay, and you know, 2.5 weeks. All right. Oh, one more easy point grab. Okay, that I haven't mentioned. Week 8. Week 8, chapter 15. there is a mastery training, there's homework. But guess what? There are extra credit, 35 points of extra credit, okay, that you can earn to supplement any assignments that you didn't get, full credit on. Okay, you worry about your midterm. Well, you didn't do well on it. You missed 20 points on your midterm. Guess what? If you do the extra credit on chapter 8, on chapter 15, week 8, okay, you earn 20 points on those homework. Guess what? I can put those 20 points for the week 8 homework into your midterm, so to make up the 20 points you missed. Okay, so I can't give you any more easier ways to make up points. All right, so please, I'm begging you to take advantage of it. All right. Okay. So week 7, this week, we're doing correlation. Correlation is not a difficult topic. We are kind of we moved past all the tough methods, okay, the t-test and the analysis of variance. Those were a little bit more challenging, but correlation, the idea is simple. There's really just one way to do it, okay? So if you follow the demos to do to run the procedure, all right, the problem set should not be difficult. The discussion should not be difficult to answer. Mastery training should not be difficult. So please, don't miss those points. All right. Correlation, the idea is quite simple. One variable goes up, so does the other, such as height and weight. Okay, if you are taller, probably heavier. All right. My favorite example, used car shopping. Okay, took my daughter to find a car. Okay, so we looked at 2 things in every used car. How old is the car? How many miles on it? Usually, the older the vehicle, the more miles it has on it. Right? Makes sense? So, if we look at a data of, for example, 50 used cars. All right, so we look at their age and the mileage. Okay, generally speaking, one goes up, so does the other. All right, so we feed the data into a procedure to calculate the correlation coefficient. Correlation coefficient is measured on a scale between 0 and 1. All right. A correlation of 1 is a perfect correlation that usually never happens. Okay, a perfect correlation means that when this variable goes up 1 unit, the other variable goes up exactly 1 unit. Okay, which never happens. Okay, if you see a correlation of 1, usually means that you accidentally correlated the variable onto itself. That's the only way you get a correlation of 1. But in practice, if you get a correlation of 0.5 and 1, somewhere between 0.5 and 1, that's pretty strong. All right. Well, what's next? What do you do next? Well, if you see a strong correlation, the next thing you should do is to put it on a graph. Okay, what we call a scatter plot. Okay, scatter plot plots your 2 variables on an XY coordinate. Okay, if you remember algebra. All right, so the age of the vehicle on the x-axis, the mileage on the y-axis. Okay, so if you plot all your data points, okay, if it's indeed a strong correlation, what would you see? You would see a trending data cloud. Okay, the data don't really line up, all right, but you should see a trending data cloud, which means that as the age of the variable increases, okay, the mileage also increase, so you see cloud of data going up, okay, to some extent, okay? So if you see a trending data cloud, you're on the right track, okay? And then what do you do after that? Well, what you do is you try to fit a line through your cloud of data. Okay, now that line is what we call a regression line. A regression line, it roughly describes the relationship between your two variables. Okay, your age of the vehicle and your mileage. Okay, if you can have a line that goes through the middle of the data, okay, then it roughly tells you what kind of relationship between the year of the vehicle and how many miles it has on it. All right, so that way, let's say if you see a vehicle, okay, that is 6 years old, you can actually use the regression line, okay, and see what a 6-year vehicle should have mileage-wise, right? So let's say 6 years old, a car, okay, from your data cloud, okay, you're looking at usually about 50,000 miles, okay? So 50,000 miles is kind of like the average for a 6-year-old car. So if your car, that this new car that you, or this new entry that you look at is 6 years, but it has 100,000 miles, then it is way above the average of all the other vehicles that you're looking at. Okay, so it's a good way as to estimate and then use it to compare with individual data points. Okay, to see if your data point is way above or way below the average. All right. Now, what else is the graph good for? Okay. Well, sometimes if you see a strong correlation above 0.5 and you look at a graph, okay, well, sometimes you may not see a trending data cloud that you expect to see. But what do you see instead? Instead, you see data points that are not showing any kind of a trend, and then you see an outlier. An outlier, which is a data point that's far away from all the other data points, but since it's way out there, it has a high leverage that distorts the correlation coefficient. All right, that happens, right? So if you see a high correlation coefficient, don't automatically assume that there's a relationship between the two variables until you see a trending data cloud. If you don't see a trending data cloud, but you see random data points and outliers, then what do? Well, you look at the outliers and you see, okay, well, is this data point valid? All right, because if it's not valid and you exclude this data point and recalculate the correlation, you may have a correlation close to 0, which means that there's no relationship, which may be a more accurate portrait, a more accurate relationship between the two variables. So outliers is something that you need to consider, okay, when you look at a scatter plot to determine whether it belongs in the analysis. Now, if it does belong and it justifies the high correlation, okay, then maybe you want to include it, okay? But, you know, when you clean the data, okay, then you are able to determine if all the data points, okay, should be included in the analysis or not. All right, so something to consider. All right, let's look at the discussion questions this week. So first question. So correlation measures and describes a linear relationship between two variables. The relationship is described using a plus or minus and a numerical value. Okay, define what each indicates. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that there are times, okay, besides a positive correlation, okay, there could also be a negative correlation. Well, when is a negative correlation happens? Well, it happens when one variable goes up, the other variable goes down. Okay, if you have two variables like that, that's a negative correlation. All right, an example of that, well, when I was looking at houses to buy, okay, one thing I noticed is that if I look at an older house with age of the property increases, then the property value decrease. Okay, the older the house, the less it cost. Okay, that happens. All right, so that's an example of a negative correlation. The new houses generally cost more. Okay, so what happens if you have a negative correlation? Negative correlation works very much like a positive correlation. Okay, but instead of between 0 and 1, a negative correlation goes from 0 to minus 1. Okay, and anything lower than minus 0.5 to minus 1, okay, that is a strong negative correlation. All right, and for strong negative correlation, if you look at the data points, what should you expect to see? You should expect to see a negative trending data cloud that goes this way. All right, and if you see that, then it confirms a negative correlation. All right. Okay. So give an example of two variables that seems to be related and thus have a correlation and have nothing to do with each other. Well, that also happens. Okay, sometimes you get a strong correlation from two variables and you wonder, well, what's going on? Why are they related? Okay. Well, it's possible that it's a fluke. Okay, in statistics, flukes happens all the time. So what do? Well, you look at the scatter plot to make sure that all the data points are indeed valid. Okay, there are no outliers, because outliers, as you're aware, could cause a strong correlation that is not actually there. Okay, especially after removing the outliers. Okay, so look into that. And then if it still shows a strong correlation, then what you do is you repeat the data collection. Okay, you do another study to see if the strong correlation is still there. All right, so that's what we normally do in practice. All right. Okay, question 2. Find an empirical study that made an association claim. What type of correlation analysis that they use, and report their findings. So look up any study that uses correlation as their main data analytic tool, okay, and see how they present it, how they justify it, or lack thereof, okay, and see if they are presenting two variables that are related to each other, and and see how they present it. All right. Okay. Well, that's all I got. So one more week next week. So, and next week we'll talk about project 3. Talk about the final exam and everything else that comes at the end of the course. All right, so I will see you guys again next week. So one more week. All right, so enjoy the rest of the week. I will see you next Tuesday. Have a good night.